Okay, so in the last movie, we took a look at multipass rendering. Now, that was the old way that we did multipass rendering, and it worked fantastic for years and years. The problem with that method is that, let's say that you're working on a huge project for a client, and you get everything rendered out, and you show the client your project, and he says, you know what, Chris, that looks fantastic, but I don't think that I want to have the antennas up here. Well, with the method that we just went through, that means you're going to have to come back to your 3D program and you're going to have to take the antennas out, and then you're going to have to re-render all of those passes. Now, that's not a big deal if it's 100 frames, or it could be, just depending on what you have going on in your scene. But if it's thousands of frames and you have global illumination and ambient occlusion and reflections, and it can just get really daunting really quick. So there's a new way to work, and that is done with the Cineware plugin from Maxon. So let's just jump over to After Effects, and I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to come over and I'm just going to pull my Cinema 4D file directly in to After Effects. I'll just say import, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag this into the new comp icon, and voila, we have our Cinema 4D file in there. Now, what I'm going to do is come up here and change this. You can see we have the Cineware plugin by Maxon. And I'm going to go from software to standard draft. So I get a little better resolution here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this file twice, hitting Control D or Command D on the Mac. I'm going to turn this bottom one off. And then I'm going to come over here to Cinema 4D Multipass. So what I want to do is, like we did in the previous one, I want to separate this visible TV and the screen. So if I select the second one and I come over here and I click on Cinema 4D Multipass, you have to do this for each layer. And then I go to Set Multipass, we can see that we have the RGBA image. We have all of the multipass images that we had back in Cinema 4D right here. But with the RGBA image selected, and then if I come to the top one and make sure that that one's checked, and I go to Set Multipass, I can turn on my object buffer like that. And now we have something very similar to what we had in the last exercise. So now I can come up here and I can put my Luma mat on there, and it's going to separate this out, just like we had in the previous one. The cool thing about what's going on right now is that we have not rendered out anything from Cinema 4D yet. Nothing's been rendered out. So if I had the same idea about coming up here and selecting these antennas, let's see, where are my antennas going to be? Just go through here. I think there. It says antenna. Let's just delete that. And let's delete that antenna. Now if we just come over here and save, when we come back to After Effects and we click on our bottom RGBA image, you'll see that our antenna is gone. Again, we haven't rendered out anything from here. So let me just Command or Control Z, get those antennas back. File save again. Come back over to After Effects. You can see it updating here. And let's see, there's our antennas again. But now, what I can do is I can come over here and I can take my hue saturation effect and I can put it on this Cineware plugin on the layer, and now I can change the color of these right here on the fly. And again, I'm going to say it again, we haven't rendered out anything from Cinema 4D yet. So we can show the client what we've got over here, and when they like it, then we can start rendering directly from After Effects. We don't even have to render from Cinema 4D anymore. After Effects is using the render engine from Cinema 4D to render. So when we're happy with what we've got, we can come back up here, we can go to our effect, we can turn everything on to final, and it'll take a minute for everything to render out. And we'll come back just when that is finished. Okay, and we are back, and you can see that it's very crisp and clean now that we have everything on final. And now we could just render it out just like we would any other comp here in After Effects. Okay, so that is multipass rendering with the Cineware plugin by Maxon.